Legend has it that when Woody Guthrie first hit downtown LA, flat broke, spring of 1937, a single-dollar bill floated down from high up the canyon of tall buildings and landed on the sidewalk in front of him. However apocryphal that tale, Woody did land on his feet because within 2 months of arriving, he ended up on the radio.
And I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people gang up around an electric phonograph and listen to Jimmy Rogers sing that song about going to California where they sleep out every night because the Oklahoma women just naturally ain't treating me right.
He was just a 24-year-old sign painter, one more husband and father trying his luck out west. He hitched rides and rode empty boxcars until he made it to Glendale. This was May 1937, and his dad's sister's family lived in Glendale, near the Seeley's Furniture Building.
California is a garden of Eden, a paradise to live in or see. But believe it or not, you won't find it so hot if you ain't got the do-re-mi.
Now, you could easily make the case that Woody's tramping around California is what radicalized him, seeing up close the gap between the myth in songs like Blue Yodel No. 4 and the reality of the work camps. But it was in the city of Los Angeles where Woody got famous, the city of Los Angeles that put him on the path from tramp to troubadour. Now, this was a Los Angeles before freeways. It was still just a cluster of small city galaxies connected by bridges, and he'd bounce between Glendale and Skid Row the first weeks he was there, struggling to make enough to live off of. He'd busk for beer and sandwiches, stay in 25-cent-a-night flop houses.
Most of the people in the Dust Bowl talked about California. The reason they talked about California was that they'd seen all the pretty pictures about California and they'd heard all the pretty songs about California. I was one of the first bunches to go to California.
Hey, Santiago, can you get back out here? This guy wants to take a picture.
But by July of 1937, his cousin Jack, who was a wannabe singing cowboy, had charmed his way onto KFVD with the Oklahoma and Woody show. Now, Woody was the sidekick, Jack was the lead, and the show was heavy on songs and light on talk. They were doing it for free, hoping the exposure would lead to more gigs. When it didn't happen right away, Jack quit. But Woody stayed, and he got his cousin Maxine onto the show, because their voices harmonized beautifully in that high, lonesome sound. And he nicknamed her Lefty Lou, and the Woody and Lefty Lou show was born. It was an instant success, heavy on old-time music, becoming the most popular show on the station. All the dispossessed Okies and rural refugees found two voices that they recognized. Most of the songs were duets, sung in improvised harmony, and Woody would skewer his lit cigarette on the end of a guitar string wound around a peg and tilt his head back to keep the smoke from squinting his eyes, and he'd start a guitar introduction, Maxine following his lead. So on Wilshire Boulevard, in that cramped studio of the run-down mansion housing KFVD, he became a full-time artist. And now every morning, Maxine would drive them both in her dad's car to the station. You wouldn't let Woody drive if you could help it. And they'd work out songs on the way, and they'd improvise the rest. They ended up with 2 time slots daily, but they were short enough they'd spend most of the afternoon hanging out, goofing around Griffith Park, going to museums, picnic in a cemetery. It was a second childhood for both of them. Sometimes they'd just stand on the roof of the mansion, Woody smoking a cigarette, and they'd both look across the street at the Ambassador Hotel, humming with wealth and activity, so close, but might as well be another planet. And now Woody was able to bring his family west, because by November 37, he had signed a contract with KFVD where he and Maxine were making $20 a week each, and then bonuses when a sponsor signed up. So Woody got his family into their own bungalow, still in Glendale, and it was so close to the old Griffith Park Zoo that you could hear the lions roaring in their cages at night. Their shows were loose and impromptu, allowed him to incubate ideas and quickly evolve as a performer. They were getting 50 fan letters a day at their peak, and the constant feedback fed him and inspired songs and side projects like handmade songbooks that he'd sell on the air. This idyllic time period lasted less than a year. Maxine got anemia and was too sick to continue. Plus, the young woman wanted to start her own life. This gig was better than the garment factory job she quit, but it wasn't a life she was chasing.
Of course, it's highly unsanitary to be out of work. What I mean by that is that in most towns all over the country, it's a jailhouse offense to be unemployed. Just so you got the do-re-mi, boy, that's the main thing. You can gamble for it, lie for it, steal for it, bum for it, beg for it, do anything else in the world for it. You can even chase people out of their house and home for it. Do-re-mi.
He tried a solo show. It was called The Lone Wolf, but the magic had dissipated and he got itchy for a change. Being settled down this long was rare for Woody. He drifted into more radical circles, hung out with Hollywood communists like Will Geer or Burl Ives. Woody said money was a trap, something to get rid of, and he treated his radio fame and success the same way. But he came to Los Angeles to make it, and he made it. He left Los Angeles in 1939, chasing an invitation from Will Geer to stay at his New York City apartment. And by the time he got to New York after leaving Los Angeles, Woody had written the song "This Land Is Your Land." And "This Land Is Your Land" was a direct rebuke to the overly patriotic song "God Bless America" that was soaking the airwaves at the time. But it's also a rebuke to the mythic California, where the water drinks like cherry wine. And you can trace the footprints of that song right through the city of Los Angeles.